The spring 2024 anime season is off to a great start, which is honestly terrifying because we have over 60 anime titles contending for our time. We have Lewd Stock Exchange, Killer Butt Mushrooms, Angel in My Bed Spoils Me Rotten, Reborn to Cause Assassination Attempts, This Guy a Dryad for 5 hours, Family, Shota Thighs versus Ban Thighs, Cold Breath was used against a young madam's Beast King Redemption Blast, Tsundere Fight Club, How the Japanese Say Thank You, Cute Schoolgirl Hijackers, My Granddaughter Fell in Love with Me, Go Go Yandere Rangers, TikTok is Ruining Our Youth, Body Daddy is back with Julie Shoulders, Fed Up with My Witch Waifu, Thick Detective Agency, How Kaijus Relieve Themselves, How to Get Banned on YouTube the Animation, and so much more. However, because not everyone has 25 hours of time to devote every single week to anime, I've taken the time to watch every single one of these shows to let you guys have a better idea of what to give a shot. This is my top 10 new anime of the spring 2024 anime season. So let's just dive right into it. Kicking things off with my number 10, we have Unnamed Memory. Yes, the series that the ReZero creator is actually really fond of. It's a series that follows the Prince of Pharsis, who is currently trying to remove the curse that was placed upon him by the Witch of Silence. And this has all led him to seek out the help of the Witch of Azure Moon. Now, the Witch of the Azure Moon actually has quite a connection with the prince's grandfather, and seem to have had some dealing with their kingdom in the past. Now, the curse that was placed upon the prince is actually a curse that will prevent him from being able to have a woman bear his child. And after conversing with the Witch of Azure Moon for a little bit, he finally comes to the conclusion that, hey, if you can withstand the curse, why don't you become my wife? Now, yes, she's not really all for this, and she quickly denies him, but she does agree to at least go back to the kingdom with him, which it seems like he hopes that during that time, he can swoon her over and get her to marry him. From that point on, you get the developing relationship between the prince and the witch. All the while, the witch is trying to figure out a way to remove his curse, and at the same time fulfilling her contract to protect the prince while she's actually in his company. It seems to intertwine a lot of the past of the Witch of Azure Moon. All the things that she's done in order to protect the kingdom in the past during wars and whatnot. And what I find so refreshing about the series is that I really do like the interactions between the two characters. Oscar is sort of a go-getter. He's not your typical main character protagonist that's always afraid of touching a girl. This is a guy that knows what he wants, and he goes for it. And he's not weak either. This is somebody that pretty much has the future of the kingdom resting on his shoulders. Since there's nobody else of his bloodline still alive or around, it's up to him to kind of keep his kingdom going forward. So with all that weight put on his shoulders, it's kind of nice for him to have a companion in his life as the witch. At the same time, I find the witch, Tanisha, very, very charming. Adding to that, having sort of a very dark past about her that is always kind of creeping up. It's doing a good job of kind of building up the relationship between the two characters, while at the same time sprinkling in a lot of world building and mechanics to the magic itself. I'm really excited about the future of the series, while at the same time kind of fearful because it does seem like they're skipping a lot of content. So hopefully they have a plan for what they're all skipping. Moving on to my number 9, I have Kaiju number 8. This show is just too much fun. They are just absolutely making this show out to be pretty much a blast every single week whenever I check it out. It follows Kafka, who had dreams of growing up to join the Kaiju Defense Force, which essentially is a force that will go out and defeat kaijus that attack the cities. Well, unfortunately, that never happened. And instead, he's actually a part of the cleanup crew, the people that come in after the kaijus defeated and actually clean up all their guts and everything. Well, one day after he gets attacked by a stray kaiju, he's in the hospital, and suddenly this weird bug insect thing crawls inside of his mouth and turns him into a kaiju, thus making him essentially what everybody's trying to kill. But he's still able to transform himself back, so he's kind of using his strength to now join the Kaiju Defense Force in the secret. And like I said earlier, this show is just so much fun. The animation itself is bombastic, the music's crazy, there's so much kind of fun with the characters and their camaraderie that they have throughout the series. Just seeing Kafka running away with Reno, his friend, and how he, again, like I mentioned earlier, has to relieve himself, so it kind of just comes out of random locations. It's almost like a comical Attack on Titan, because it is that idea of somebody becoming the bad guy while also wanting to use it for good. That sense that when he goes to defend somebody, they're still fearful of him because he's still a kaiju. It all has me kind of curious how the series will play out, and yeah, what kind of crazy stuff Kafka will get into. Moving on to my number 8, I have Go-Go Loser Ranger. This is probably easily the most conflicting show to put on my list, because honestly, while I see so much potential in it, I just constantly wonder, is it actually going to deliver on it? It's a series where mankind is attacked by monsters, the monsters come down from this floating fortress, attack them, and then they're at their worst when suddenly the Rangers show up. The Dragon Keepers show up and they fight back against the monsters. Well, unbeknown to the humans, yes, really quickly, the Rangers took out the bosses of the monsters, but they're still forcing the footmen, the fighters, to keep coming down to act as if they're constantly struggling with them. It's all a big act, a marketing ploy in order to keep their popularity up and to make money off of it. Well, one of the monsters, Fighter D, is fed up with this. He wants to sneak into the organization, transforms himself into a human, goes into the organization to try to see if he can destroy them from the inside. And he's quickly given help by Suzukiri, who is this girl that's a part of the Rangers who also seems to want to take them down. Their big goal is to find an artifact so they can use the artifact to kill the Rangers. It's one of those series that kind of goes to the concept of the Rangers, the heroes of the world, actually being really nasty people. So you kind of root for the bad guy to sort of take them down. It's all a big facade. It's a lie to the people, and some people are trying to destroy that lie. It's the ultimate underdog story, but at the same time, like I mentioned earlier, I'm very curious if it's actually going to execute and do something really impactful in the end. Still, it's extremely driven by the fact that I'm just really intrigued to see where it goes. For my number 7, I have Tonari no Yokai-san. This show is just an absolute treat of the season. Easily going to go down as probably the gem of the season. The show that nobody's going to watch, that I'm going to absolutely love. Now, I'm a huge fan of Natsume's Book of Friends, so this kind of scratches that itch that I've been having for a long time. It's set in a Japanese rural area where pretty much mankind lives side by side with the yokai. You have Nekomata, you have Tengu, you have pretty much everything, Kappa, and the people of the area just see it as everyday thing, even having a lot of them going to school with them. And we get mostly two different perspectives. We get the human perspective through Mutsumi, who is dealing with the disappearance of her father and having to lean on her new parental figure, which is Jiro, which is a crow Tengu. A lot of the other perspective is from the Tengu side through Buchio. Now, Buchio is a family cat that at one point just turned into a Nekomata one day. And Buchio is sort of kind of struggling with what his new life purpose is. Now that he has been born as a Nekomata, what is his purpose for being a Nekomata? Because it seems like every single yokai exists for the purpose of something they were supposed to do. It seems like it's leaning more on the idea that he just wants to be with his family, he wants to support them, but it really is touching in the idea of almost a identity crisis that he's going through. It's just a beautiful series with a lot of emotion in it. Struggles over loss, identity, being rejected, finding comfort and leaning on other people, trust, all those types of things are being brought up already, and I just cannot wait to see where it goes. For my number 6, I have Train to the End of the World. This show is absolutely bonkers, and I love every single minute of it. It essentially opens up with the world itself being transformed by this 7G launch incident. Every single town and village within this area has pretty much been transformed in some way. For instance, the opening village that we have, Agano, all the people in that village have been transformed into animals. And we follow Shizuru, who is currently trying to travel all the way to Ikebukuro in order to find her missing friend. It turns into a story of 4 friends traveling on this train line as they go to each one of these stops and seeing how the effect of this launch has altered the people of each location. All the while struggling with their relationship with each other, and yes, Shizuru's past with Yoka, who is the girl that she's searching for. What I love about this series is that it's almost like an absolute drug trip that they just somehow mashed into a story. And it's kind of chaotic, but at the same time, there's sort of a structure to it that it never gets to the point where it's too much. Having one stop where people have sort of allowed themselves to be consumed by mushrooms. Yes, a home village of animals where, yes, like a bear is giving in to his instincts to want to eat humans. It's got a great style to it. The animation has been doing really well as well, and I just cannot wait to see where it goes next. Moving on to my number 5, I have, surprisingly, the only isekai in my list, and that is, as a reincarnated aristocrat, I'll use my appraisal skill to rise in the world. This show was an absolute surprise for me, and honestly, the last show that I actually checked out for the season. It starts out with your usual office worker, overworked, dies, reincarnated into another world, yada yada yada, but he actually is reincarnated as the son of a noble family. And this noble family is head of this entire region. Eventually, over time, our protagonist, who is now Ars Lovent, discovers that he has the ability to appraise people, to discover their talents and their potentials and different skills. And while he assumes it's a weak ability, he eventually realizes that this is going to be something that he's going to need in the future. Because yes, in the future, he will have to head this family and thus have to lead this region. And the unfortunate thing is this region is within an empire that is already kind of seeing signs of a future conflict. So he's going to have to be in a rush to find talented individuals to lead in order to protect his lands. We get an example of this as he goes into the village and he ends up running into somebody of the Markan race, which is a race of people that actually came from over the seas. And they're discriminated against, but Ars ends up seeing the potential in this individual. He ends up taking him back to his father, who duels him in order to see if he's worthy of actually being under Ars, and even his father acknowledges the skill that this man has. Our second example is Ars running into a past slave who is homeless in this one town. And despite the fact that she's never used magic before, he notes that she is an S-rank mage. Why I love this series so much is that it's so much different than your typical isekai. Usually an isekai is a power fantasy. Somebody goes to another world and they have OP abilities, they shoot off the OP abilities, everybody goes to Goi and he saves the world. But this one has so much more focus on Ars as a person that will be a future leader. somebody that will have to take over from his father, which we realize from the first few seconds is going to be something that's going to happen because he's going to lose his father. So he's racing against the clock in order to find talented individuals who will essentially be his power for him. This is an isekai to a power fantasy that he does not wield himself. He has to gain the trust of those with power and use them strategically in order to protect his people. I guess you can equate it to something like Isekai Slime, but the main character isn't an OP slime. It has me really excited where this series can go from here, and I cannot wait for more. Moving on to my number 4, I have Mysterious Disappearances. This show is so fantastic. It is horror done right. If you can give me a horror series that doesn't hold back, it's super mature, it's super gritty, it's just all out there, I'm all for it. And Mysterious Disappearances is definitely doing that for me. It opens up with Sumireko, who is a past author who is in a slump. They're not able to write things that their publisher wants anymore. And she's getting up there in age. She just turned 28 when she comes across this one book that allows her to change back to being young again, which sparks her inspiration again. She's able to write again. Well, she doesn't know this one book that she read in order to do that is actually a curse. And if she stays young too long, she will end up dying. Well, in comes her coworker, Rin. And Rin is secretly a curiosity seeker. Somebody that looks for objects that are sort of from other worlds that are cursed and tries to capture them and turn them in for tickets. Rin very quickly explains the whole situation to her and the fact that she's not going to be able to stay young, otherwise she'll end up dying. She's very reluctant to give it up, but he kind of inspires her by letting her know that he loves her writing no matter what. And what follows is Sumireko ends up joining Rin as they hunt down other curiosities. Currently one being at the school of the sister of Rin, which is an oddity that might possibly cause students to spit up saliva and have some sort of fever. It's a really gritty series that is just nailing the aesthetic, the feel of it, the ambience and whatnot of a mysterious horror series. For my next one, number 3 is Yatogarasu. The Raven Does Not Choose Its Master. This is a series that honestly, when I was coming into the season, I was pretty sure I was gonna like, and sure enough, I'm loving it. I can kind of equate it to something like Raven in the Inner Palace, but without the constant mystery per episode. How do I explain this series? It takes place in Yamauchi, and this area is ruled by the Yatogarasu clan. The Yatogarasu are people that are able to change form from a human form to a raven. It starts off showing that this entire region is pretty much sectioned off by 4 different areas, north, east, southwest. And in the center is the capital. And as the series opens up, the prince himself is looking for his bride. So as per tradition, each one of these regions will send one of their daughters to the prince, at which point he'll choose which one's going to be his bride. Early on, we get the perspective of each of these brides as they come in. They learn more about the capital itself and what they're in for. That's when we shift perspectives to a young boy who is sent to the capital to be a retainer to the prince himself. That's where we get an idea of just how different the prince himself is. And yes, why he's not going to see his potential brides. In the background, you're seeing that there is sort of a plot going on to take the prince's life. See, he's not the eldest prince. The reason why they've chosen the younger prince is because he's one of these destined bloodlines. So far, what I'm really liking is they're doing a great job of presenting so many different characters and potential factions that are actually coming together for what seems like a pretty bloody battle. There's intrigue, backstabbing, people putting on masks. Everything's kind of playing out in a way that I am just extremely interested in. Moving on to my number 2, honestly, number 2 and number 1 are just absolutely neck and neck at each other. They're just fighting for this spot. But no, my number 2 is Jellyfish Can't Swim at Night. This show is an absolute treat of the season. When I went to go make my top 10 list, I was like already putting Jellyfish on there. It's like, this is gonna be on there no matter what, just get it on there. I'm absolutely loving this series so far. It opens up with a girl named Mahiro who used to be an artist, but at some point she lost her inspiration to draw, mainly because her friends unknowingly made fun of her art. And while she's wandering in the street, she eventually runs into this one girl who's actually a past idol. And the two of them come together through Mahiro's art. And this idol, Kano, wants her to make the artwork for her next album that she's putting out. And then later on, we rope in Kiwi, who is a VTuber that is a friend of Mahiro's. It's a coming-of-age story. It's the idea of children who are getting older and they're having to discover what they're going to do in the future. And yes, a lot of them being sort of inspired by social media and desires to seek out the arts that they want to do. But there's several things that make this series so special. One, it looks absolutely gorgeous. It's just a gorgeous looking series. Dogokobo, its original series, they're just pumping the budget in it. The directing, the visuals, everything is absolutely on point for this series. But additionally, I love the fact that there's so much emphasis on certain aspects like how one person can inspire another person. The desire to seek out your dreams despite the fact that you've experienced criticism in the past. This is about these girls coming together, supporting themselves in order to seek out the dreams that they desire. The character writing's on point, the dialogue's on point, the music's on point, the visuals are on point. Everything about this show just screams perfection, and I just cannot wait every single week for the next episode. And that all comes down to my #1 show of the spring 2024 anime season so far, and it was no doubt, I'm sorry, it just had to happen. Yes, Spice and Wolf. Merchant meets the Wise Wolf. Yes, it's a cheat because this is a new adaptation. It's already been adapted before. Yes, I have the light novel series. I've read the light novel series up to what the anime has actually adapted so far. There's a lot of things that is technically influencing me and my love for Spice and Wolf. But what it came down to is, as I was watching this new adaptation of it, it still came down to the idea that, yes, in the end, this new adaptation is doing something different. Not that it's steering away from the light novel, more the idea that it is actually being a lot more truthful to the light novel. It's a new adaptation that is doing it better. Added on to the fact that the visuals and everything is just absolutely spot on. The music by Kevin Pinkin, everything is all cylinders to make this the pinnacle of an adaptation. This isn't a new adaptation where they're going to do it worse. And hopefully, yes, an adaptation that will do the whole light novel series. But what it comes down to is why I love Spice and Wolf has already been shown in these first 4 episodes that I've watched. It is a series about a traveling merchant who at some point comes across Holo, the Wise Wolf. Holo used to take care of this one village by making sure their crops were fruitful. And yes, over time, the people themselves have grown to forget that Holo exists, or at least mock that she ever did exist. And now that she feels alone, she decides to jump onto Lawrence's carriage and travel with him. Now, what makes this series so fantastic is twofold. On one end, this is about Holo and Lawrence's relationship. Their chemistry between the two of them is just absolutely fantastic. Lawrence is a merchant who has knowledge in doing a lot of trade. He's been doing it for 7 years. He has knowledge of the kingdoms and how things work. While on the other side, you have Holo, who is this wise wolf, a very prideful wolf that has her own wisdoms that she can actually help Lawrence with. The second side of this whole thing is the trade itself. Each different situation that Lawrence will come across and how the two of them can work together in order to have a beneficial result. And how that stuff comes together in a perfect equation is what literally makes this series a legendary series. And like I said, with these first 4 episodes, we're already seeing all of that. We're seeing the trade, we're seeing their chemistry, we're seeing even the more emotional sides of it, which is how these two relate to each other in more ways than they think. How again, Holo feels alone. Every human that she once known is gone. The other wolves that she once knew are gone. Every time she wakes up, she's alone. And that's exactly what a traveling merchant deals with on a regular basis. Every time they wake up in their carriage, they're alone. And it's them discovering that coming together, they can support each other. It's a great series, great characters that I'm absolutely loving going through again. And that's it. That's my top 10 new anime of the spring 2024 anime season. Some honorable mentions. I'm loving Blue Archive. It is so much fun. It's super cute. I love the characters. I get to see Mitsuki. I love her to death. It's just been a blast. Bril's Band Cry, unfortunately, is a very difficult one to watch just because we don't have anybody that is an official, company that's releasing it. So we're having to wait for fan subs. But it's been a lot of fun so far. It's just got a lot of drama in it. I will admit the only reason it's not on my list is that it's pushing into the melodrama area, and that's the part that I'm not too happy about. But honestly, the fact that it's CGI has not been bothering me as much as I thought it would. There is times where it looks a little off, but it's been a really great show so far. Yozakura Family has been a lot of fun as well. I was very surprised how much I'm enjoying that series. And of course, I'm still enjoying all the returners. My gosh, this is literally the season of returners. We have Konosuba, Mushoku Tensei, Jobless Reincarnation. My gosh, I cannot wait to see how this one's going to conclude. Sound Euphonium Season 3 has been absolutely fantastic. Duke of Death and His Maid is back. And yeah, Tensura Season 3 has been really fantastic as well. And of course, Eurocramp Season 3. It's like the season of threes. And that's it. I could keep going on and on. There's been 60 shows this season, and it's an absolute blast. I'm honestly myself, as somebody that covers this stuff full time, even I am just like overburdened with too many shows. So hopefully this list helps you guys out that don't do this full time and cannot invest all this time to these shows. If you did like this video, make sure to hit that like button down below, comment, let me know what's your top 10 or whatever many shows that you have been watching. What are your top shows of the season so far? Additionally, if you're new to the channel, make sure that subscribe button to get my content. I do news reviews, first impressions, top list. If it's anime, it's pretty much here. I've been doing first impressions of all the shows of the season, so you can check out the individual videos, all the ones that I've done. I think I've pretty much done videos on all this stuff that's in this list, except for maybe appraisal skill yet, and Tonari. But my goal in my videos is to give you an idea of what you're looking forward to and give you some visuals to kind of go with it as well. But yes, if you like this content and you want to support the channel more, I have a Patreon link, tips, links, and thanks membership button down below. Greatly appreciate what it does. And until next time, y'all take care.